Good evening. On behalf of the North Brookfield Historical Society, I'd like to welcome you to our evening program with Martha Scott Lincoln. Almost forgot her name. Not Martha Scott, Martha Skerry. Right?
Martha Skerry Lincoln.
Okay, Martha Skerry Lincoln. After the program, there are refreshments, and anyone who is looking to become a member, there are applications on the back table. The dues are very minimal, and they're on a yearly basis or a lifetime basis. So without further ado, I introduce Marcia Casault from Oakham.
Thank you. I just want to tell you a little bit first about how I got involved in this project. It's kind of a strange thing. I'm vice president of the Oakham Historical Association, and we moved all our belongings from the Oakham Library to our own building about 11 years ago. Well, during that move, I came across a collection of diaries, and they were all written by Martha Skerry Lincoln. And I started kind of just skimming through it, and I noticed one of the books I had randomly picked out, she starts mentioning a little boy named Timothy. And I came across Timothy's birthday is the same day as mine. And it's like, but here she is in her 50s, and what's she doing with a new baby? You know, so I started digging into the diaries more and more. And the more I did, the more fascinating they became to me. And I started to see a lot of ties in with the town history as well as the area history. There were, Samuel Skerry lived in the North Brookfield area. And they also had relatives in Fiskdale as well as in Hadley. So you might recognize the Skerry name. And there are some of them still buried here in town as well as in East Brookfield. But I'm going to read you excerpts from her diaries. And I picked these excerpts with the idea that it would give people a general idea as to the day of an everyday housewife. You know, what it's like, what she goes through, her husband's businessman, you know, and the things that she's involved in as well. But before I get into her diaries, I just figured I'd give you a little bit of information about Martha Lincoln and her family. Martha Ward Skerry was born on June 6, 1804 in Salem, Massachusetts. She was the daughter of Samuel Skerry and Content Ward. She was one of 6 children. Shortly after Martha's first birthday, her father, who had previously been a shipmaster, moved his family to Brookfield, where they could, quote, enjoy the tranquil pleasures of an agricultural life. While on a visit to Salem, Samuel Skerry was kicked by a horse and died as a result of his injuries at his home in Brookfield. At the age of 36 years, Samuel left his wife and 6 children. Martha was then only 4 years old. On April 2, 1829, Martha married Stephen Lincoln Jr. Lincoln was born November 29, 1792 in Oakham. With his first wife, Betsy Brooks of Princeton, they had 2 children. Elizabeth was 5 and William 2 years old when Lincoln married Martha Skerry. The Lincolns lived on his father's farm until 1833 when they purchased 13 acres on Rutland Road from James C. Fairbanks. After building their new home, Stephen Lincoln opened his business making wire sieves in a building across the street from his home. At various times, the wire business employed between 15 and 20 people. In 1848, Stephen made his son William a partner in the business. It was that same year that William built his house next door to his father's. In June of 1864, the Lincoln took in Elizabeth Twist McCarthy as hired help. A few months later, Eliza, as she was known, had a son, Timothy, and they lived with the Lincolns for 7 years. At the age of 85 years, Stephen Lincoln sold his half of the wire business to James Robinson. Lincoln's former partner, Moses Ayres, carried on the business until his death in 1895, when the business and property was sold to Walter Dean. In his will, Stephen left his home to his daughter, Elizabeth Lincoln Burke. Elizabeth died in '02, and the new owners abandoned the house, and it was eventually torn down in 1925. Martha Skerry Lincoln was not only the wife of a farmer and businessman, she was also active in her church and her community. Both Martha and Stephen were members of the Oakham Benevolent Society for many years. Martha left this world on November 5, 1883, at the age of 79. Her death certificate states that she died of cancer. Her husband Stephen survived her by 3 years. He died October 25, 1886, at the age of 94. Both Martha and Stephen are buried in Pine Grove Cemetery in Oakham. Now, if any of you are interested, in the table behind me, I do have some copies of photographs of their home, as well as Martha's cheese and butter making accounts, and some information on their family history. So if you care to take a look at that later on, you're welcome to. 1858, January 1. Received 6 New Year's letters, for which I desire to be thankful. What a comfort it is to friends when separated that they exchange their thoughts in this pleasant way. January 4th. Felt bad enough this morning. My arm is so lame that I could not tie up my hair, and my nose to breathe through one side of it sounds more like a corn whistle than a breathing apparatus. However, I will still hope for the best. January 15th. Had a good cry today, and it relieved me considerable. Dr. Wakefield said there is nothing which does a woman so much good once in a while as a real good, healthy cry. Not keep it too long, but leave it off just right in the time when you get it through. January 23rd. A splendid day for a winter month. Birds have made their appearance in some places, and we almost think we hear them here. Should be very glad to hear them, for they are always welcome visitors. September 22nd. Left home this morning for Hartford. When we got to Springfield, we found Mr. Humphrey Ayres and his wife. Had the pleasure of their company to Hartford. She is anticipating some pleasure, though I think it will be spiced with fatigue. October 1. Have been picking some peaches. Hope and think they will be a good, for we have no cucumbers this year. I can never recollect a year before 30 years that we have had none, for we have always given away a great many. October 5th. Have spent more than a half a day in gathering flower seeds, marking them, and removing plants. And I am so tired that I pant like a fat hog. October 20th. I am going to work in the barn today to pick some beautiful husks for an underbed. I hope I shall succeed and get well enough to be paid for working in the barn. January 1, 1860. It was announced at meeting that the Honorable Amasa Walker would address the school children on Wednesday. April 9th. Dr. Martin has been here today fixing teeth for Julia, filling and drawing. I do think he is a good, careful hand and understands that business. If people must have teeth fixed, they like a sympathetic hand. April 18th. The barn was raised this afternoon, and we had 30 people for supper. April 25th. Mrs. Ayres showed me a carpet sweeper. I should think it was a very wise article for gathering dust and saving dirt. It is a labor-saving machine. May 25th. My beer is most splendid. It is breakfast, dinner, and supper for me, and all I want while it lasts. The foam is 3 inches thick. It is food and drink, too. I have not eaten a meal for more than a week. I had rather drink than eat. September 10th. Went up to the attic at 10 and stayed 5 hours shelling seeds, and now I am so lame that it pains me to take a step. It is a busy time between frosts and seeds, and one must save them themselves. September 26th. Attended a temperance lecture last evening. Mr. William Adams from Boston spoke 2.5 hours very acceptably. I have not heard so stirring a lecture for a long time. I should think he would do good. September 29th. Had a hard frost last night. The north side of the house was as thick as window glass. I made 2 sage cheeses this afternoon and came very near freezing too. It is tremendous cold. full cold enough for winter garments for those that have them. 1862, January 27. The stage is on 3 routes, I am told, tipped over, some once, some twice, and one even 3 times. There is a great deal of snow and it is very hard. I pity stage drivers and horses too. Such cold weather and bad traveling. January 28. Men have been cutting roads with axes. The snow and hail is very hard and a great plenty of it. It looks like more snow. Now our stone walls are covered. February 1st. Mrs. Forbes and Mrs. A. Maynard spent part of the day with me and the rest with Mrs. Burt. Though the weather was stormy, they went to the shop and was weighed. Mrs. Forbes weighs 214 pounds. What a burden to carry. April 27. Mr. Lincoln unable to get on a coat with any comfort. It seems a good while for him to stay from his Sabbath school class, for he is always very constant at meetings. He has been a great many times when he has come home sick, and he has been sick all night. May 13. Started this morning early with Mr. and Mrs. Burt to go to Princeton. We got part of the way to Mr. Haskell's, and the horse fell down. In a few minutes, we found ourselves seated in another wagon. Got nearly to Princeton and met Uncle John and wife coming here. September 27. I have hardly got rested from cattle show yet, but I am not sorry I went. I saw one vase of hair flowers. There was nothing remarkable. I saw other things that looked very nice, and the articles showed that they were made by people of taste. Some things were made by old ladies. October 21. We had a frost last night. Yesterday morning the dailies looked beautifully. Today they look as though they had been dipped in black dye. How gloomy the first frost always looked. Vegetables in the ground and the ground frozen. Potatoes not all dug and apples not all picked. November 7. The first snowstorm came in earnest today. Snow and hail some inches deep. The first snow always looks gloomy. It is as cold as winter, ground and everything freezing up. We have had a very pleasant time this fall to prepare for winter. November 8. Snow, hail, and rain today. Mr. Lincoln's carrots are all underground. If we don't have an Indian summer, it appears to me I should not like to dig vegetables in November. November 24. Washed and ironed today so as to see if I can make up the rest of the week any easier, for I want to feel more rested by Thanksgiving. November 27. The first Thanksgiving that my husband and myself may have been alone for 34 years. It seems very quiet and nice. He has been to meeting and we have everything in the usual line, only in a smaller scale. November 29. My husband is 70 years old today. We are having a turkey dinner and invited Mr. Pelavet and Mrs. Burt's family. 1863, March 10. Mrs. Oliver, a colored woman, knocked at my door last evening and offered her services for the season if I wished. But rather than engage her, I thought I'd much rather be a bottle washer myself a while longer. I don't fancy yellow complexions very much. March 11. If I felt well, I should enjoy being alone, but I am not very strong and I often get to a hard spot. If there are 2 or 3 of the right kind of Irish women in town that would work by the half day or by the hours as people needed, I think they would find employment and it would be well for them. May 7. I have planted some sweet peas and hyacinth beans. 4 o'clocks are up, castor beans put in today. I miss my boy about getting these things in running order. May 23rd. Walked up to the Union store, found it quite as far as I could go for such a warm day. I love to walk dearly if I could go on the right time, but then I have to step so many thousand times to do my housework, my strength gets all used up. June 26. Have been to work this afternoon putting up hair flowers from the head of our little Charlie. And I have felt that working on them, that his spirit was in heaven. How I do miss him, the dear little fellow. We have taken a great deal of comfort together. July 19th. Have made my first cheese today. We have churned besides, done some baking, and when I got through, I was even too tired to sit down. So I laid down and did not get half rested before I had another curd to tend. What a confinement a cheese tub is. August 5th. Today I have made 3 loaves of sponge bread, 2 loaves of gingerbread, 4 apple pies, 2 berry pies, and 2 sage cheeses. August 7th. For one, I shall be glad when haying is over, for women have to bear the burden of some of it, I think, as well as the men. I have thought a great many times this season, and it might be our last season, for my husband or myself are not able to work as hard. September 1. Got my shawl on to go out at 2 o'clock, and just as we got ready to start, Luther Crawford called and wanted the land measured that he had mowed with his machine. As of course, I must stay at home. December 23rd. The neighbors are all engaged about Christmas, which comes off tomorrow evening. I hope it will be pleasant so that the children can go. I feel that they will have quite a good time. 1864, January 6th. Have rode around the square this afternoon to try a new sleigh. 12 of us made quite a respectable load. Could have taken 3 or 4 more without crowding if they were small bodies, and I believe they would have enjoyed it too. January 11th. Have washed and ironed today, besides cooking some. It has been a splendid day for winter. I have had a hard cold ever since I went to Christmas. As old as I am, I never saw a Christmas tree and thought I would go and see one. It looked very nice. January 24th. A pleasant day for the season. People are walking to meeting very comfortably and hear good sermons when they get there, if they keep their eyes and ears open. I read of a man who was in the habit of shutting his eyes in church, as he said, to make the sense of hearing more acute. January 25th. Dr. John Gould called down this afternoon to get some wood. He examined my teeth and advised me to have them out. Said he thought he could take them out without hurting me much by using his laughing gas. I told him he would not make me laugh by using it. January 27th. I heard a knock at my door this morning, and I knew the bag of gas was there. I could not go to the door. It was 11:30, and before 12, I had out 7 teeth, my eye teeth included, and if it wasn't a job, I am no judge. Gas helps some, but it does not do it all, that's for certain. February 9th. What a comfort it is for me to put up hair flowers. A lock of hair, to me, has a great deal of meaning, and looking of a flower will revive a great many dear recollections of a dear departed friend. Such memories are precious. February 12th. I have finished making 2 small wreaths today, which will be a real comfort to me to examine. One is Mr. Lincoln's hair, the other is mine, and one of dear old friend. What a nice keepsake of a dear friend is a wreath of hair. February 13th. We can retain such flowers a memento of a dear friend long after the head that wore it lies moldering in the dust, and in looking of such a flower 20 years afterwards will bring to mind a great many tender expressions. February 21. Our soldiers came home last night on furlough. They seem well and hearty. We had a reception at the town hall. Mr. Pellebat leaves tomorrow to spend 6 weeks among the soldiers. May his life be preserved and his experience be beneficial. February 24th. A fair was held this evening for the benefit of a singing school. They collected $150. Pretty well for these hard times. Our soldiers are on furlough. They will attend the funeral of Willie Nye, a soldier, this afternoon. June 16th. Mrs. Eliza Twist came here today. She has not been long over, but I am going to see if she will get the right side of work so that I can get my feet rested, for they are tremendous tired. I have to keep on them too much. June 17th. As I was passing through the kitchen this morning about 11 o'clock, I heard Eliza praying to God to forgive her for eating meat for breakfast, for she had indeed forgotten it was Friday. June 19th. This is a hard day for Eliza, poor girl. She cannot go to meeting till she can get some clothes. She has just been inquiring if we have Mass here every Sunday. I tell her we don't have a Mass here at all, and she feels very bad. June 20th. I think Eliza is a good-disposed girl. I pity her from the bottom of my heart. I hope she will get to see better days, and I trust she will. She left her husband to take care of herself. July 8th. Brother Samuel's wife, Mrs. Armory's family called here for a few hours this afternoon, and Mattie B. went to the horse barn. They said to cut some hay for the horses, and took off a piece of her forefinger. July 9th. We immediately sent for the doctor. Armory ran to the barn and got the piece of finger. It was put on. I hope it will grow and make a useful finger. I wonder children don't get hurt more oftener. July 23rd. Eliza has gone to Mrs. Capen's to spend the Sabbath. I hope it will do her good. What a pity that the Catholics are so bigoted that they will not hear a Protestant minister. They are afraid of offending their priest. July 24th. We just heard that General Crawford has had another shock, and it is thought that he cannot live another day. Oh, what a solemn thing to die and appear before God in judgment. We must all do it sooner or later. July 25th. General Crawford has closed his eyes on all things earthly. He has lived to more than that common age allotted to man. August 4th. This is National Fast Day, but it is rainy. We are very thankful, I believe, to see it rain. We need the water very much. Many wells and springs are dry that were never known to be dry before. This is the cry everywhere. August 6th. We have 2 men digging a well. They have got down 7 feet. When they get much farther, they think of finding water. August 11th. My husband said to me, "It is 57 years today since I marched on South Boston in 1812. How sudden men went off then. Webs were put on a loom one day and the next day made into shirts and pants." August 12th. In those days, it was unheard of to have pants lined, and drawers were not known either. I suppose the rough woolen seams produced friction to keep men warm, for it was seldom they froze to death. August 26th. Have been up today to have a few photographs struck off. This man takes them in about 12 seconds, and good likenesses too. What a comfort to have a good likeness of a friend when they are gone. September 21. I have been up on the hill this afternoon to see the little Irish immigrant baby, which opened his eyes in Oakham about 11 o'clock. Eliza, his mother, feels that now she can look into the future with brighter prospects. October 7th. When I think of Lydia's narrow escape from a watery grave with little Frankie, it makes me tremble. The horse bucked from a bridge without a railing, and they were plunged into water 16 feet deep. November 18th, a rainy day. Our well is in the cellar that was dry is now so full one could dip water from the top. It is 14 feet deep and nearly full, and our new well at the door has 11 feet of water in it. November 26th. Mrs. Capen came up for Eliza to go home with her and take Timothy, for she said the priest will be there tomorrow and will christen the children with the Irish. It seems as though baptism was the salvation of their children. December 12th. A tremendous cold day. We have killed a hog, and tomorrow we shall kill a lot of hens, the last butchering for us for this season. If this cold weather lasts, we shall not be sorry. December 14th. Have been baking pies and trying lard and making scraps, which were very nice. Tim is 3 months old today. He weighs 16.5 pounds. He is very strong and healthy and a very nice baby for hard times. December 19th, a stormy day. We have a good many such snow, hail, and rain. We wash and put our clothes in the cellar till the sun shines. 1866, February 19th. Butchered 2 hogs today. One was $5.15, the other $3.64. The 2, $6.79. Quite good hogs for these days. If I were to work them up, I should put a good part of them into lard pots. Think they will sell for more than any other way. March 24th. I got an awful fright today. I put a small handful of paper shreds into the fire, and in an instant the chimney took fire. I, like a frightened person, put on 3 of my fingers to see if the cover over the flue was hot, when I found it melting and blistered my fingers. April 27th. I love to hear little children when they first begin to talk. It is, to me, the most interesting part of their life. Timmy is a chatterer that will amuse anyone. He is very much attached to me. He will call for me every time that he does not see me. June 9th. We have been churning this morning. We churn nearly 3 times a week. We are making a fine lot of butter. I am thinking if Mrs. Mayhew was here, she would very much like to do the churning, provided that she could have the butter. October 17th. We churned this morning, baked some, made a large cheese, and dressed 12 chickens. The sun is up 1 hour. If I can lie on the sofa that time, I shall do it, for my back aches tremendously. I don't feel able to work so hard. October 18th. Spent half the day picking husks for a bed. When we get this bed filled, it will be the last one we have to fill, I think. A great deal of husk for an underbed, and it is not an endless job to get them, as some suppose. December 15th. We have made 12 dozen candles that will give us light for a while. This is a very cold day, plenty cold for winter. If we had snow on the ground, it would be better getting about. But if we are patient, we may see more than enough. December 18th. A little pleasant today, though it looks like snow. To see snow on the ground at Christmas, I think people as a general thing enjoy it better. People are looking forward to that evening with satisfaction. December 24th. This is the night that the children hang their stockings and go to bed with high expectations of something that they hardly know of. Timmy has seen old Santa Claus in the Barry paper with 1 foot going up the chimney. He has got down on his knees twice this afternoon to see if he could see his other foot coming down the chimney. He wanted I should take a hold of his hand so that he would not be taken up there. I have filled a little stocking tonight, the first one that I have filled in my life. 1874, January 24. A splendid day. If people would exert themselves to make others happy, how different it would be from what it is. January 29. I am lame, but my lameness is occasioned by a fall from our front door in an icy time. I landed flat on the ground. February 3rd, a driving snowstorm. Wind, northeast, cold enough for the windows frozen up so that we cannot even look out half the time. April 25th. It snows some today, and it looks very thick and black, and besides being cold. 70 men and boys commence breaking ground for the new hall. May 23rd. I have churned 18 pounds of butter. This is grand weather for making butter. I wish we had conveniences for making it all summer, for I'd rather make butter than cheese. My shoulder is so lame. June 2nd. In 4 days I am thinking I shall meet with dear friends that I seldom meet. The thought would be pleasant if I could leave home and feel easy. June 3rd. I am thinking of going to Fiskdale tomorrow afternoon to meet Sister Lydia, but never felt so bad about leaving home in my life. Mr. L. is so feeble. June 4th. I am writing this in Brother Samuel's insurance office with my sister Lydia by my side. June 5th. I have been down to Mr. Betchler's 3 times today, met 3 friends, and had quite a social chat carrying back to my early days. I dearly love to meet with old friends with whom I went to school. June 9th. Lydia and myself, Samuel's wife, and Russell's wife visited Mr. Freeman Walker's this afternoon. Mr. and Marcia Walker and his wife were there. We revived old times and enjoyed it very much. We went back to Samuel's at 10 o'clock. July 11th. Katie had lumped 30 pounds of butter very nicely today. I wish I could make butter all summer. It is so much less work than to make cheese and to take care of it for a year afterwards. August 26th. The Chinese boys are here. After Mrs. Conington left, the boys seem quite natural. There is noise enough in them. All that is wanting is the right place to bring it out. They will leave tomorrow afternoon. August 27th. There were no tears shed this morning, neither there was no occasion for it. The boys have altered wonderfully since last they were here, but do not appear half as well. 1874, September 10th. Made my first cheese this morning, and it was a good big one too. It seems as warm today as July. Clothes feel very uncomfortable. Oh, how I wish we could see a good shower tonight. September 11th. Oh, what a saucy girl I've got. I stood by the stove watching some vinegar that was boiling. I was very tired after working on cheese till 11 o'clock and stood with my hands on my hips, and Katie mocked me. I told her I should stand there till the vinegar boiled. She gave her head a shake and said, "I don't care if you stand there till the day of judgment." September 16th. Edward and his mother, Mr. and Mrs. Burt, and myself, and the two Franks rode around to the agricultural grounds in Amherst. We saw flowers that were the most beautiful. From there we went to Northampton. Elizabeth got a lunch, and we ate it on the camp steps in Hatfield, where they can seat 10,000 persons. We sat in front of the speaker's stand, went into a number of tents. Some were beautiful. One Swiss tent, painted yellow and made open like basket work. Some were fanciful. It was an inspiring place. September 26th. A splendid evening. The full moon will shine all night. The bands are playing out on the common very nicely. October 6th. I believe I have never went to bed any more tired than I did tonight. I think I have made curds enough for about 40 pounds of cheese. I have stood all day except at mealtime, and think I shall have one more day like it tomorrow. October 7th. My expectations have been realized today. We are closing our cheese business for the season, and I think forever. I hope so. I have been in the business for 44 years and feel that I would like a discharge. October 11th. I have been to meeting all day, came home tired, and found Charlie and Katie both had company. Such an afternoon I never witnessed. I never felt in my own house as I have felt tonight. October 12th. Of all the imprudent girls that I was ever acquainted with, Katie beats the whole. She is too outrageous to live with any decent person. Oh, such an imprudent tongue for a girl of 18 I ever saw. October 14th. A place for everything, and everything in its place is what I like to see, but I did not find things so this morning. The cat stayed in the kitchen all night and made bad work. I went to the stairs to call Katie, and finding no answer, I made up my mind that she was over to Mr. Tomlinson's, and so it proved. She came in when breakfast was nearly ready and says good morning, if it's not too late. October 16th. In all the girls that I was ever acquainted with, Katie is the most destructive and nasty. I hope this is her last day with me. Now henceforth and forever, I never desire to set eyes upon her again. October 17th. Katie Murphy left this morning. Joy go with her. If the woman that employs her next bears the imprudence and profanity that I have heard, I am of the opinion that her stay will be short, for she is awful. November 9th. I am not able to wash today. Our pump is out of repair and the chain is broken in the well, so that we have to go to the other end of the house for water. 1876, January 25th. Mrs. Clark came down to do some sewing for me. I call her a very good hand. I liked her years ago before she married last. There is one thing I can say in her favor. I never saw a woman that has made greater improvements in 2 years than she has seemed to me to have made. June 8th. My dear brother Samuel died yesterday morning at 10 minutes before 10 o'clock. He died very quietly. Had he lived 6 days longer, he would have been 70 years old. Lydia and I are all that is left now. December 26th. How many right-down lies have been told to children for more than 100 years about Santa's coming down a chimney with dolls and trumpets and drums and books and sleds, hats, caps, and all kinds of wearing apparel. My mother never told me anything like that. She was too sensible a woman to deceive her children that way. 1878, January 5th. Among my many letters, I got one from Professor H. White from Germany. I like his letters very much. His parents died when he was quite young, so that he dates a great many things where he received very early impressions in this place. He has been blessed with a good memory and shows how much a little boy can think, and not only think, but remember. He is a noble scholar and is now in Germany learning the German language. January 17th. A stormy day, but I am at home. Mr. L. does not like to have me gone from him long at a time. I have a feeling that he thinks he may drop away suddenly, and he does not like to stay alone long at a time. He suffers a good deal, and if I am allowed to judge for myself, I would say I suffer too. Every day of my life I have done my work in misery, all winter and longer than that, but I see nothing that looks like rest, so I must continue to work in misery. I cannot rest good at night, and that is no benefit to me. Everybody needs rest. February 9th. This is a rainy day. There is so much water in the mowing piece west of the house that a boat might sail 2/3 the length of it. Water is plenty in this region now. Within a week we have seen snowdrifts near the house that were as much as 5 feet deep. Our L, south door, has not been opened for a week. It's too much work to open it. February 22nd. Thousands are celebrating General Washington on this day, though he has been dead for 60 years. He was a man that left good impressions. He set good examples for the young. If ever a child liked to read something, anything that he had his name on it. Seems to me a person could not help loving such a man. Wish we could see such generals now. His noble form commanded respect, and he was so polite and respectful of all. March 20th. Timmy has helped me wash some today and has helped me considerable. I wish he had a good place where he had a strict master. If he goes without one much longer, it will be a difficult matter to make a good boy of him. His mother is a poor guardian for him. She is a wrong one to train his mind. March 22nd. They are having a farmers' meeting today, and the day is splendid. I like the idea of farmers' clubs. People are a good deal interested in them. We need something to keep the breath of life in us. April 2nd. This is the 49th anniversary of our marriage. At 7:15 in the evening, the ceremony was performed. Reverend L. Clark gave us some advice, Mr. Tomlinson made a prayer, and Deacon Allen married us, being the justice of peace back then. It being a time that we had no settled minister. Of the 22 at our wedding, only 3 are living besides ourselves. Truly, that looks like passing away. April 20th. A rainy day for the gathering at Mr. Bullard's, but for all that they may have a good time. A rainy evening for Minnie Foot's wedding. Mr. Pearlie Ayres had a meeting at his house, being his 86th birthday. It is Laura Burt's birthday, too. Minnie Foot was to be married this evening and to ride to New York in the cars. A dark evening. I should not like to be part of that program at all. Martha Wright and Alice went to the wedding. May 22nd. Received a nice letter from Mr. and Mrs. P. Walker last evening, which takes me back to my early days. It seems like a retrospective glance of olden times, but few are living that went to school with me. Almost all are dead and gone. I can say today that it is a luxury for me to look at an old face, one that I know a great many people in North Brookfield. Almost everything looks strange to me, and no wonder, for it is 48 years since I last lived there. June 26th. I have been trying to put up some hair today, but various calls have prevented my doing so. I have hair for Mary Alden's head, Mrs. Mayhew's, and Lucy Knight's. I trust they are all in heaven. It seems a dream when I think of it, so little while ago, that they were all here, but they are all through with suffering here and have gone to reap the rewards of a well-spent life. Happy souls at the rest of the bosom of their Savior. June 7th. Oh my, a box came tonight without any name on it, but I think I know the name of the giver. May the Lord bless him all his days. 2 nice boxes of confectionaries, a dozen lemons, 4 dozen oranges. I think the prospect is very fair that I can have my fill at least once. June 8th. I'm still resting from my labors, reading good letters, and eating nice oranges. How I wish Sister Lydia was here to enjoy them with me. They are as good as I could ever ask. Some I laugh over, and some I cry over. Last evening I received a sheaf of wheat, one of the sheaves that was on Sister Mayhew's coffin. When I look at it, it reminds me that Belle is in heaven awaiting my arrival. Who knows but she is to be my guardian angel to conduct me to glory. I rejoice for her, that she is where the weary find rest, and for Lucy Knight and all other such spirits. June 22nd. I have been planting over my vegetable bed this morning. So much for poor seed. How people get cheated in buying vegetables. They are not half as good as people can raise themselves. I have some splendid lettuce. Hope to live to eat a good many meals of it, too. June 27th. Mr. George Stone's family are very sick, and Mrs. Butler, their mother, is dangerously sick, not expecting to live but a short time, of the canker rash and diphtheria. It is dreadful. 7 have been sick in their family, and the girl that went to take care of them is taken sick too. It is a dreadful disorder, those little children, how it must have seemed to them to have their father, mother, and grandmother all sick, and to be sick themselves too. We don't know what yet, who will live or who will not. It is a dangerous time for the living. July 2nd. Oh, how hot it is. It appears to me that I never saw such weather in my life before. I did not close my eyes to sleep at all last night. At 4 o'clock, I was still making pies. July 4th. They celebrated at Barry today. Crawford's band have gone over. Martha Wright and children are here today. Laura has gone to H. Lincoln's with Ruth and the teachers. Frank B. goes to a party at Ellen Haskell's. The rest of us stay at home and have the best time eating peas and new potatoes for dinner and strawberry shortcake and ice cream for supper, and retired not feeling any more independent than on any other day. October 30th, a rainy day, a good day to do jobs in the house. Alfred has had another husking this evening, then I hope he will get some apples ground so we can boil down our cider. I did not have any last year. I want some good, strong applesauce. It gives everything a relish when it comes. I use it every meal, and I wish I had some tonight. November 6th. Have spent more than a half a day papering a large trunk that Father brought home from the sea. Mother gave me this the week she died and requested me to take it home, and that was 24 years ago. I have got it now, and I think I shall make some of it while I live. I like to see the wishes of a dying mother regarded. She was a dear mother to me. Lydia and I are all that is left of her family of 6 children. November 11th. Mary Alden is but just alive, poor girl, how she has suffered. Consumption has carried away all of the Alden family, and the greater part of them young. It wastes one life away. November 12th. At 6 o'clock this morning, Mary breathed her last and closed her eyes on all things earthly. She goes about the same age as her mother, 23 years. She leaves 2 motherless girls, one of them 7 months, that will never know her mother's love. November 13th. Mr. Alden has met with a great loss. He will feel it more and more every day. Mary was a tender mother and was very much devoted to her children. Little Mary is but a little more than 5 months old and is too young to know a mother's love, but the suffering one will need it. November 14th. I went to Mary's funeral today. It seemed as though Clara could not give up her mother. She looked at her a good many times today. When they had all taken leave of her, Mr. Alden took a long last look. Clara leaned over and almost felt her mother's face. November 15th. Her father put her in a chair. She looked till the bearers came in to remove the casket. Her father went to take her down. She gave one more look, threw a kiss, and said, "Goodbye, Mama." Clara is a little more than 3 years old. It drew tears from all the room. November 16th. That kiss seems to be fresh in my mind. It seemed so much like her bidding her mother good night. It touched that fond father's heart, and well it might. and he was not the only one that was touched, for all that witnessed it were moved to tears. November 17th. The day after Mary died, Clara went to the chamber where she had been in the habit of sitting with her mother and called her, but her mother was not coming. She asked, "Where's Mama?" and was told she had gone to heaven. Clara says, "Won't my mother ever come back?" November 20th. It seems to me that I shall never forget Clara's taking her final leave of her mother. It was a touching scene to see a little girl 3 years old throw a kiss and say, "Goodbye, Mama." The sight was enough to melt the stout hearts unused to weeping. Will she forget her? November 21. I think not. I think she will talk about her mother every day, and sometimes feel her mother is not very far off. Mary has been a kind, tender, and faithful mother. I believe 2 years from now, should Clara live, she will repeat some of the things that her mother has taught her. 1883, January 12th. I have hardly put my foot out of doors this winter, and this afternoon walked up to meet Mr. P.'s store. Got a ride home for which I was very thankful. It is over 2 years since I have been in a sleigh. Think I should enjoy the ride. January 21. They had a scarce time on Willie Pond this afternoon. Quite a number of men working at getting out ice. Timmy got into the water up to his ears, and so cold his clothes, they froze on him before he made it to the house. January 22nd. Timmy spends the day here, glad to be able to report his experience of 2 hours. Had he not got safe foothold before David and I and 2 horse and sled got in. They had to draw out the horses. Pokerish business. April 18th. A lovely day. Folks are plowing in good earnest. How I wish I could get out of doors and scratch away the rubbish, but I feel afraid I shall not be able to do much of such work this season. May 7th. I got some calico to cover a bed quilt and commenced working on it this afternoon on the kitchen table alone. It is hard work for my lame sides, but I know of no other way to cover rags. It tires me to sew on anything, but I see no other way to do it but to keep going ahead. June 6th. This is a hard-feeling day, very sultry with thunderclouds black. It looks like rain. They have had an examination on Mr. Burt's body today and find that the ulcers have eat through his stomach. Doctors wonder that he could have lived so long. What a trying birthday for me. It is one I shall always remember. August 11th. I do feel that I am wearing out. I shall just write in my diary and call that my work for today. August 20th. For 4 days I have not been able to write in my diary till today. It is harder work for me to write than it was once or even 4 months ago. I have been sick since the 1st of June. August 22nd. Had a call from Mr. H. Lincoln and Mrs. Miles and 2 others besides. He has examined me pretty faithfully. He says, trust in God. He has taken care of you for 79 years. He will not forsake you. Keep up good courage and be ready to go when he calls you. I mean to do so. September 2nd. There was communion here today, and after they got through, Mr. Loring and the 3 deacons came down here and brought the elements, and we had a precious time of communion in our room. There was 15 here. It has been 5 years since Mr. L. has been out of the house, and 2 years since I've been out. September 23rd. Timmy was 19 years old on the 21st. I wish I could hear from him. I have not heard from him directly since he left on the 23rd of April. He left with a heavy heart, as he always does. I pity him, but he needs something besides pity. I don't feel that he is going to meeting at all. September 25th. I cannot bear this pain so much longer. What little strength I have, I must give away. It hurts me terribly to cough, and I cannot keep anything on my stomach. It is so discouraging day after day, week after week, and months. I am a wonder that I can hold together so long. October 5th. Saw the first ice this morning. It seems cold. I am so empty. I feel the cold more than any account. Who knows how to prize health? when in the enjoyment of it. I have been sick more than 4 months, the most trying ones I ever saw in my life. How long will it last? October 10th. Worse every day. Tried to write in my diary, but I fear I shall not be able. This terrible stomach won't let me do anything. It seems unendurable to bear. I can't hardly breathe. October 12th. I am too tired to rest. When will the call come? I wish I could go home tonight. 2 weeks later, Martha Skerry Lincoln passed away at the age of 79.
Anyone, any questions of Martha? Who did she keep this diary for?
It was her own personal diary, but she had a daughter that owned the house next to her that died in 1902. And I believe her daughter had possession of these diaries for many, many years. There was a time when the Historical Society first began in 1899 that there were several people that donated everything and anything they could get their hands on. And I believe these 25 diaries might have been part of those donations. And like I said, there's, I've tried to give different information on her life and, the people she dealt with and how it was for a normal, everyday woman. But personally, I think she was a bit of a busybody. I kind of say that in a nice way, though, because she mentions a lot of names that are familiar, in the area, and especially with like Oakham history. And the Professor H. Wright that she mentions that was learning in Germany is the Professor Wright that wrote the history of Oakham. That was published in the 1920s. Yes?
How long period did the diaries cover?
1858 to 1883. Yeah. 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 But it's really pretty interesting, and of course, as some of you know, I work at Sturbridge Village, and it's really nice to be able to compare that time period with this, which is 50 years later, to see that the types of things that we talk about happening early 1800s, this woman was still doing later on.
She didn't have any diaries earlier than 18?
No, I haven't come across anything earlier than that at all. No. She didn't have any children of her own. Both her children were stepchildren. Stephen Lincoln had a daughter and son when he remarried. And I imagine it was kind of a bit of a shock for her when she married him. All of a sudden, poof, you have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old to take care of in this great big farm. And, and he was a businessman. He had patents for making wire sieves, little sifters. And at one time he employed like 20 people. So, she was busy enough. I think she basically was running the household and farm, and he was taking care of the business.
The Lincoln Farm in the south.
It's her brother-in-law.
Huh?
It's her brother-in-law that had the farm on Lincoln Road. Yeah, that was her brother-in-law. Her husband's place was on Rutland Road. If you're coming up from Route 148, you go around the corner just as the road starts straightening out. If you know where the Dean Tar Company was, right across the street from there was her house. I have some pictures of it. It's really kind of sad, though, that the house was neglected after her daughter died, and the people that bought it never took care of it, let the pipes freeze up and everything, and it just fell apart. The people that own that house now, with that location now, said the original cellar hole is underneath their house, though. But it's quite a big house, that's for sure. And she never mentions anybody else living in the house either. For the size of it, kind of amazes me, just her and her husband and, the hired help that she had lived there. She doesn't talk anything about her husband having hired help on the farm, but I know for a fact he had, employees in this business.
What you read, how you take an excerpt, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, was she pretty faithful and
Oh, she was writing every day.
You wrote everything?
She wrote every day up until, it was really strange for me because when I started looking through these, I didn't realize the diary of 1883 was the last one. And when I got to it, I've often thought of making copies of the pages, but I have a hard time dealing with it sometimes because I get really involved in her feelings and emotions and everything. But when you see the last pages of her diary, her handwriting gets more and more like chicken scratch, and she starts to write sideways down the page, and her letters are really big, and then all of a sudden it's like nothing. You know, and when I found that, it's like, okay, what happened to her? And I immediately went to the vital records and said, oh my God, she died. You know, and it really kind of broke me up, needless to say. You know, because, you know, reading 25 years of somebody's life, you really get to know them all. You know? But there's a few things, you know, like when they talk about her friends coming over and then going across the street to the shop and getting weighed, you know, things like that, you know. She talks a lot about, you know, I don't put all the excerpts in, but she talks about a lot of people. She kept her nose in everybody's business, I think. She knew everything about everybody in town. You know, and her husband was quite involved in church. She was involved in the Benevolent Society, but I didn't see anything else that she was active in. You know.
Was this house more or less centered in the town at the time?
It was close to the center of town. It's about a half a mile where our town hall is now. Like, you could see right where the house is. It's probably not even a half mile through the woods.
So it's easy for her to keep track of everything.
Oh yeah, coming and going. Everybody had to go by her house. I'm sure of it, yeah. Well, Rutland Road's like the main road up to the center of Oakham. You know, so she probably sat in the window a lot, you know, and watched what was happening, you know. But, yeah, I think she's a really neat lady. I wish I could find a picture of her though. That's my only problem. I have pictures of her husband, I have pictures of her in-laws, you know, pictures of her house, all kinds of information about her, and I can't find a picture of her anyplace. We have hundreds of pictures at our historical museum, and I've gone through every single one, and I cannot find one from a local photographer or one that has her name on it. You know, all the ones that have photographers' names are photographers either in Springfield or in Worcester. But nobody that was local. So, but maybe, you know, a picture of her is to be left to my imagination. That's how I figure it, you know. I picture in her head what I want, in my head what I want her to look like. You know, and I think it's best to leave it like that sometimes. You know.
When you mention a local photographer, are you thinking of Oakham? Did Oakham have it?
She said that he came up to the town. I don't think there was one in town at the time, but in another part, one of the other diaries, one of the other years, she mentions a photographer in North Brookfield. I just don't remember the name off the top of my head. No. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yes.
Well, it was interesting how she, at least from the excerpt she read, that she was so, she kept coming back to that scene where Mary dies, and then Mary's daughter.
Mary was her daughter-in-law.
The daughter.
Her stepson had been married 3 times. And Clara, her great-granddaughter, or granddaughter, was married to George Alden of Worcester. And, yeah, Clara Alden. And so, you know, you can kind of connect it with the Worcester families now, too, and Alden being a pretty well-known name in Worcester. But I believe her stepdaughters lived in the house next door for a number of years. But her stepson had married, I can't remember the girl's name, married one girl, and then she died like after 3 or 4 years, and then married her sister. And then after another 2 or 3 years, married this Mary. So, and she had the 2 little girls.
No records of what happened with the little girls, little Mary or whatever?
That's my next project, Clara.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another family history. So, it's hard sometimes. you know, when you start researching a person's history, you know, and how many different directions you can go. And, you know, when I saw there was a real connection here in the Brookfields, you know, and that they were buried here and all. And Samuel was a merchant. One of her brothers was an insurance
He's the founder of our insurance agency. 1852.
Really?
Samuel Skerry became a licensed agent of the Worcester Mutual Fire Restaurant.
Really? Wow, see, learn something every day. Yeah, but yeah, the Lydia that she talks about a lot, it's her twin sister. Yeah, her and Lydia were actually the third and fourth child in the family. Her first brother died only when he was like a couple years old. And then she had a brother, and then her and Lydia, and then there was 2 other children born afterwards. But her and Lydia and the 2 boys were all born in Salem, and they moved out.
One of her sisters, one of Samuel Skerry's daughters married Frank Smith.
Yep,
Right?
yep.
That's why it became, there was Skerry Insurance, and then it was Frank A. Smith, and then Frank A. Smith.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they,
Frank Smith, did a good thing.
yep, Content Ward, which would have been named after her grandmother, born May 16th, 1843, married Frank Smith, April 28th, 1870, of North Brookfield.
Yeah.
She died August 21st, 1880, and was buried in the old cemetery in North Brookfield. Yeah, so that was Samuel's 5th child. Yeah, they moved all over too. They were all over the state. Some of them did move out to Illinois and Ohio. One of them, I believe, was working in New York for a while as well. So, yeah, quite a big family. Keep going. Yes?
Can you say anything more about these, what do they call hair flowers or something, or wreaths? I've never heard that.
I wish I really could bring them with me, but they belong to the Historical Society. They're actually like, if you were to cut a piece of your hair and braid it and make like little flowers out of it. And that's what they did as a hair decoration. We have an oval box, it's probably about this big, about this deep, got a glass top, and they're beautiful. Unfortunately, the thing is, the names on the tags that she wrote have all faded, so I can't even read which one is which. But she made these as like keeping a remembrance of a relative or a friend. The little Charlie that she talks about was her neighbor's son, lived right across the street. But I just like having a photograph, you know, but I don't know. She even talks at one time of this one woman, how long and beautiful and straight her black hair was, and how she couldn't wait to get some of it to make a hair flower. And it's like, oh, give me a break. You know? But yeah, it was kind of like a hobby thing for her too. And I mentioned like when she went to the fair she was talking about, she went to the cattle show, was up in Barrie, and how she said she saw all these crafty things made by old women. And I was figuring out, and I'm saying, wait a minute, she was like 54 that day she wrote that, you know. She's not no young woman herself anymore, you know.
It's just something that she did on her own, or was
Yeah,
that something that...
it was stylish though. It was stylish. It became more and more popular during like the late 1800s, 1890s and all, Victorian type things. But I don't know how she ever got involved in that. But they're really beautiful and they're so delicate looking. They almost look like they're breakable. But yeah, I really wish I could borrow one sometimes and show them off. But they're really nice. They're made, some of them are made like if you make a bun on your hair, that they would fit right over it. Some of them are made like little barrette type things. You know, they're really pretty. But I couldn't picture myself taking somebody's hair that has died, that's been a close friend or relative, and making something.
That was quite common practice though,
Yeah.
back in those days, because
Yeah.
I've seen many of them up in Vermont, and I saw one time, it was in frame this big, and that wide, it was all family, and they were all little tiny daisies or big.
Really?
Type of flowers. That's really beautiful.
They are,
I think it was quite common back in those days.
Yeah.
Because of the family that way. They
Yeah.
didn't have pictures.
right.
How does the color of the house?
Excuse me?
How about the color of the hair?
Hasn't changed at all. It's still the normal color. Yep, there's some browns and some blacks. Yeah, no blondes. I don't remember seeing any blondes.
Maybe they didn't have bleach.
Yeah, that could be too. No, mostly black and brown. Yeah, but they were, I didn't even realize it, after doing all this research, and then I came across this box and it was like, oh my goodness, this is what she's talking about. These are the hair flowers that Martha's writing about all the time. And I tried moving the box a little bit and trying to read the tags, and then they're just so faded. And I really hate to open the box and let air into it or anything. It's pretty well sealed up.
Was it in just a box or was it in a frame with glass on both sides?
It's just has glass on the top. It's a wooden oval box, probably like this big and probably about this deep. And it's oval and it's like almost like a veneered wood, and the glass top fits over, just like a hat box would, except the top is glass.
The ones I've seen that they, you know how they used to make the frames and they were those deep
Yep.
frames? They were wide like that,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then they would be like the shadow
Like a shadow box
we
would be,
had
yeah.
back in the 70s.
Yeah, now they have like memory boxes, I guess, you call them.
And I have seen the blonde hair, but I understood at the time that it came from a child before they get to. because
Probably.
Blonde hair,
Yeah.
you start cutting it, it starts turning color.
Right.
And, I have seen the blonde hair,
Yeah.
and so.
Yeah, strange hobby.
If there are no other questions, then thank you very much.
Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
got one? Okay.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you seem to spend an awful lot of time making cheese and butter.
She
Did
did.
you sell it?
Cheese and butter, even at that time, were used to be traded at the store. She was bringing, it was a business for her. She was making this and selling it. I have a copy of her cheese accounts up here. And I thought it was kind of strange that when she kept cheese for herself, she would write, sold to Mr. L being her husband. And if she sold it to the store, Mr. P or whoever the storekeeper was. And I know there was like one June, she had made like over 240 pounds of butter. I did check, the only census I could find in town was in 1865, where they only had 4 cows. But you figure if you're making cheese, you're doing it like 3 times a week. And it can be quite a lengthy process too. And I've only seen where she's had only one hired girl at a time too. So they must have been doing it constantly. No wonder she was lame. Yeah. But it was a business, you'd take your cheese and your butter to the store and you earned credit for it. And that's what she was doing. This was her way of making money for the family. But even, as old as she was then, her 50s, 60s, and up to her 70s, she was still making cheese and butter. It's a lot of work. Oh, yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much, Marcia.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Please partake of the refreshments. They are